Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. Glad to have you guys here on this Monday, the 29th, almost the end of the month. Thank you for tuning in. A lot of stuff happening around the world. One of the things is, for years, the gold and silver price has been manipulated to the downside. Well, there's another name for it. They call it spoofing. And they've turned a blind eye to it. Why? Because it really helps to support the dollar. And, we have the BRICS nations over there, and they really want the dollar to not be the world reserve currency any longer. But they're waiting their time. They're biding their time. Right now, China is, they're still accumulating gold. And, they're still quite heavily invested in U.S. Treasuries. And they don't want to rock the boat right yet, I don't think. They want to accumulate more gold at cheap prices. So, as far as these spoofers are concerned, one of the things that makes the dollar, underpins the dollar's value, is how much gold and silver you can buy with it. It shows the dollar as being a strong currency if you can buy a lot of gold and silver with it. And the dollar is still strong. It's strong this morning. Well, the thing is all of these things are going to remain in place until they don't. And ultimately, what do the BRICS nations really want? The things they want have to do with the dollar being undermined as a global reserve currency and cascading down and burning in flames. That's what they'd like to see happen, but they're not going to do it until the timing is just right. This is all being done. A lot of this stuff, these wars and stuff, it's all connected to the same thing. Now we got big stuff happening right now. Turkey's Erdogan has issued an open threat to invade Israel. Can you believe this is actually happening? This is threatening to. Now, Turkey is a NATO member nation. Turkey issues an open threat to invade Israel. It says Turkey's President Erdogan threatens to invade Israel in support of the Palestinians. He says, we must be very strong. This is what he says. He says, we must be very strong so that Israel can't do these things to Palestine, says Erdogan, one of the most bitter critics of Israel on the international stage, referring to the war against Hamas in Gaza. This is just the tip of the spear of what's happening right now. What we see this war. Israel is basically surrounded by their enemies on just about all sides over there. But it's kind of like in a schoolyard, and you got say you're in a schoolyard and you got some kid and he's an astute kid. He's one of what the terms they use, nerd. Got glasses and everything else, and he's surrounded by in the schoolyard, except he's got a big brother, and his big brother's a professional wrestler. So this is what Israel's like. They're like the kid in the schoolyard, and their big brother is America, standing right next to them. And so even though Israel's all completely surrounded right now, they got Hezbollah to the north. They've got the Hamas to the south and east, or is it to the south and west? And then they got the fighters from Yemen on the other side of them over there, the Houthis, and to the north they've got Turkey threatening to invade them, and it's all around them. But they got America right in there too, with warships all around them as well. And so, but this whole situation could erupt into something overnight. We've seen it brewing for a long time, but people are not really paying that much attention to it, you know. I mean, take a look at the crude oil prices are falling right now as traders are unfazed by Israel's Hezbollah escalation of the war. Well, I'll tell you what, they will be phased if there's an enormous oil shock. And this would be the last straw for the dollar. You know, I mean, we're right on the edge of massive inflation. And at the same time, they're squeezing parts of the economy, like the Fed raising interest rates and stuff. They're squeezing part of the economy so that the economy's starting to turn downward sharply. So they can't squeeze tighter at this point to try to preserve the dollar. And what if we get a big oil shock comes in, a big war breaks out in the Middle East, oil gets cut off, oil prices go up. Oil is intrinsically connected to inflation. Everything that you purchase has an oil price connected to it. You say, well, okay, I want to purchase a pack of berries at the store, you know, maybe strawberries or something, or raspberries or something. You say, they got no oil in them. Yeah, but there's a truck had to deliver them to the store. That's oil. The package that they're in is probably made with petroleum products. Even the cellophane that goes over top of the berries is probably, and the elastic band that goes around them is made from oil products, right? And then when they produce the berries, you know, they have to drive the tractor through the field. They have to pay for the gas for the tractor, and then oil products again. You're back to oil products. So the price goes up of oil, so does the price of your berries, even though they're not made from oil. And this goes all the way through every aspect of our economy. Oil, an impact to the oil price, a major impact to the oil price, will impact inflation to the upside. Now, we're right to this edge right now. There's an edge we're at. And the edge is that people are at the point now where they're saying to themselves, hey, you know what, should I save in dollars anymore? This is why you see all these ads coming on television and stuff for these different gold companies and stuff. People in America are starting to buy gold and silver somewhat. People that's never bought it before. They're brand new. They're not stackers or anything. They're just saying to themselves, hey, you know what, my dollar's losing value here. I want to have something I can hang on to that rather than savings in the bank. Now, if inflation gets a whole lot worse, the people that have the big money are going to start to say that. I'm talking about people who are billionaires and stuff like that. They're going to sit back and they're not going to be eyeing, and it's getting harder and harder to find yield out there. They're going to start to say to themselves, too, the same thing. Then when people start to spend, if we get a rather really serious bout of inflation caused by oil shooting to the moon, this could really, really start to tip the balance toward a loss of faith in the purchasing power of the currency of the West. The main currency of the West, the main currency of the world. This could really start to tip the balance. And see, we've already seen this last bout of inflation start to tip the scale just a little bit, and it's starting to get rocky. But they've kept it solid, the Fed has, by what they've done. They've brought the dollar index up to over 104 by what they've done raising rates and stuff. But they can't continue with this any longer. I'm amazed that they got this far in, you know. Anyway, we got to get talking about this. Oil prices fall as traders are unfazed by this Israel-Hezbollah escalation. Now, this kind of amazes me that oil prices could actually fall. Can't they see what could explode from all of this? A war in the Middle East. Right in where they produce the oil. What do you think's going to happen if that happens? Oil prices could double overnight. Now, here's something. Do you remember the other day I went on a rant a real tear there, and I was talking about how we're in such a vulnerable position because of our communications, world communications, and how it could get cut in war because the enemy could cut the communications cables outside our country where we can't stop them from doing it. Like a lot of these ocean sea cables and stuff I was talking about that run along the bottom of the ocean, is how do you patrol those? They're way out thousands of miles away from your country, out in open water and stuff. How do you constantly be vigilant over that? And that's what I was thinking when I was talking about in that show. This never occurred to me. That the people themselves might start cutting these cables and stuff. The people that live in the countries. Like it's happening right now in France. It says vandalism has hit communications lines in France. And the Paris Olympics aren't the only ones affected. Now it says Paris Olympics aren't affected. They're not affected by it. But it says in Paris, the French government says multiple telecommunications lines have been hit by acts of vandalism, affecting the fiber lines and fixed and mobile phone lines as cities around France are hosting events of the 2024 Paris Olympics. It says vandalism came after arson attacks hit train networks around France on Friday, hours before the Olympics opening ceremony. It says French police have said there are issues at least 6 of the country's administrative departments. So they're calling these acts of sabotage, but evidently, and they've got maintenance teams on site to carry out repair work, it says here. These vandalism acts, they didn't get a whole lot of anywhere because there were sufficient backups and workarounds. But evidently they did cause problems. Now here's the thing about backups and workarounds. What if they cut those too? What do you do then? You haven't got any backups. Well, then your internet goes dead. You know? And this is something that didn't really occur to me, that it could be the people that start cutting these lines, the people that reside inside their own countries. You know, I mean, this could be a problem as well. Not just the enemy cutting your, and this makes it even more vulnerable. It adds credence to what I was saying. It even makes it into an even more vulnerable system if your own people start cutting these lines, telecommunications lines. Everything now is on telecommunications. We've put all of our eggs into this one basket. And, you know, I mean, it's such a vulnerability within our society that I can't emphasize it enough, what a vulnerability it's becoming. Now, in another article here, the CIA has denied that the Trump shooter was a subject of an MK Ultra program. It says the CIA has actually taken time to issue a denial of the Trump assassin Thomas Matthew Crook. And it says down here that remarkably the CIA has responded to the accusations. Then CIA statement is that these claims are utterly false, absurd, and damaging. And the statement also added that the CIA had no relationship whatsoever with Thomas Crooks, quote unquote. Okay, but I went on down here to read. It says here, unfortunately, trust in the intelligence agencies is such a low that anything they say just makes people believe the exact opposite. That's what it says right there. You know, but I find it interesting and remarkable that they made this statement right here. Their statement is, and I'll read it again, that these claims are utterly, the claims that Crooks may have been an MK Ultra, Their statement from the CIA was that these claims are utterly false, absurd, and damaging, and that the CIA had no relationship whatsoever with Thomas Crooks. Okay. Now oil prices fall as traders are unfazed by Israel-Hezbollah escalation. I already read you guys about that. I'm going to tell you guys what. We're right on the edge. Right on the edge of a massive depression starting. And the whole thing turning into a hyperinflationary depression because of their efforts to try to fix and salvage a monetary system that's based on a Ponzi scheme. Nothing like this has ever happened before in human history. They've never tried on anything like this. We're in uncharted territory. This is something brand new that's never been tried before. It's like a big experiment in money, in what they call money. And, you know, it's like the old story about the king that had no clothes or whatever. You know? Their currencies have no clothes. They're walking around stark naked, except everybody believes in it. And it's that belief. It's all a confidence game. And this is what the BRICS nations are going to try to do, is pull the bed sheet off and expose the nakedness to everybody to see. That's what they're going to do. But they're going to do it on their time scale, when they're ready to do it. And right now, I don't think it's quite timed right, because China's still getting the gold, quite literally, at these super cheap prices. And they're able to convert their U.S. treasuries into gold. Well, when they break out with total war, the same thing could, and they know it, the same thing could happen to them that happened to Russia, and they have all their assets seized, Russia did, and then they actually use their assets to help Ukraine. We're going to use them to help. That's the plan. Now, of course, the same thing could happen to the Chinese treasuries. Was it almost getting upwards of $1 trillion? They don't want to lose that. They want to try to scoot that out like a little bit to a time, get it out as much as they can while they can, before the inevitable happens, which is probably war. Probably war in the Pacific. And from what I've been hearing a 2 to 3 year time frame. Right? And because when real war breaks out, then the gloves come off, and that's when, if you've got something that's being held by, and the same thing applies to them as applies to us. You know how I say, if you don't hold it, you don't own it? It's kind of like if you had money in a bank, you know, a lot of money in a bank, and you heard the bank was going down, you're trying to pull that money out, but not too fast, sort of thing. You know, you're trying to get it all out, because you know that if when the day comes, you're not going to be able to get it. And that's the way I think with the Chinese. There's these treasuries and stuff that right now that's good. It's good for them. They can cash the treasuries in, buy their gold, put it away. And the gold's something real. The treasuries are like, yeah, they worked hard for them. But what's the U.S. paying them with? Is paying them with debt or IOUs. Now, you can cash those IOUs in the gold right now, you know, but well, you guys get the idea, you know, and so they're going to try to do as much of that as they can before the whole thing breaks apart and they end up holding the bag, you know. Now, silver today is down 38 cents. I'm not worried about this little price drop in silver, because I think that this is something that's just going to be fairly temporary for right now. I see an explosion coming in the silver price once certain factors happen, you know. And I don't know how much silver they're holding out there in these vaults that is ready for immediate sale. This is something you can't find out. It might be getting awfully low. And of course, I've been thinking this for years. It's getting low and going to run out, and they've kept it going. But isn't that the way with things? You say to yourself, when's that going to run out? When's that going to do this? When's it going to... And you don't know. And then when you're tired of watching the pot ready to boil, you're tired of watching it. You go out. As soon as you step out the door, man, the pot boils over and boils. Well, that's the way with this. As soon as you stop watching it, they're going to run out. And I've been watching it for years. It hasn't happened. Just as soon as you quit watching it, it's going to bang. They're going to run out. Because we know that it doesn't last forever. I mean, they're at deficit every single darn year. Deep deficits. Where are they getting that to cover the deficit? In the silver inventory. The mines produce a fixed amount. And most all that goes to industry. So when you get these big time people out there and ads on TV, invest in silver now, turn your IRA into the gold and into a whatever, you see them all out there. I mean, it's going big time now. Like, it's way more. I see way more ads now. People are going to start to buy it too when they see the dollar losing value. So that little amount they got left over for actual sale into the market on this very tight market, one of the tightest markets on earth, poof, it's going to happen all at once when it goes. Waiting for it for a long time, but it's going to happen. Now, Bitcoin is at $68,064. Ethereum is at $3,306. And XRP is at 59.5 cents. So Bitcoin's looking strong right now, near its all-time high price. I mean, it's only about 4,000 off of its all-time high price. Now, the Dow Jones today, she's down 23 points at 40,612. And the S&P 500 is down 20 points at 5,479. Taking a look at crude oil, she's dropped $1.35 to $75.81 today. So crude oil's down that's considerable. I mean, it was up around $80 there. Now it's $75. I guess they don't think anything could ever happen in the Middle East. Even though they're just bristling up, getting ready for this war, this big war in the Middle East. Crude oil has fell. Might be the calm before the storm for crude oil, I'll tell you how bad it could get. I'd say fill up your tank with gas and keep it full right now. Because this could break out really suddenly, and we could have a situation like happened in the 1970s. Because even though America is an oil producer, still, when you get these canals that carry the oil, or these straits that carry the oil, if they cut them off, it could go into shortage so bad, so quick. The big long lineups at the gas pumps. And it's hard for us to imagine that because we haven't seen it for so long. I mean, it happened way back in the 1970s, but I remember it. Okay. Now taking a look at our Treasury bonds today, the U.S. 10-year is down 2 basis points at 4.179. And the U.S. 30-year is down 2.6 basis points at 4.43. And we're still dealing with our massive yield curve inversion. Taking a look at our U.S. dollar index today, and see 104.59, seeing the dollar strong right now. Boy, things could change fast in this dynamic, fluid situation that we have in the world right now. And I think things are right on the edge of erupting into something big. I mean, we had a little quiet period there until I heard about what's going on with the Hezbollah to the north and Erdogan and all that today. And I start to think, hey, things might be starting to heat back up again in the Middle East. Thank you guys for listening to my show. You guys have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.